Hello everybody, Stu and Andy here at Fratton Park. I've conceded the higher ground to Mr. Warren today. Let him look a little bit taller than me. But we're here to discuss an Ipswich Town defeat. They've lost 2-1 to Portsmouth today. We're in the lead, we're deservedly in the lead. As Mr. Cook has told us afterwards, the game was there in the palm of their hands, and then they've conceded a goal massively against the run of play. Right on half time from a corner, and have crumbled a little bit from there, which is becoming a bit of a familiar theme. Paul Cook said afterwards that mentally they're not strong enough. You watch Ipswich nervously at the moment, thinking that something's going to go wrong. It did go wrong. It was a bit of a nothing second half, but Portsmouth, I thought, looked the more likely to win it, and win it they did. Andy, what are you saying about this?
They just don't handle this small. They're not huge setbacks, are they? Conceding a goal, conceding an equaliser. They just don't handle setbacks very well. We've seen it before. We've seen early goals conceded. I thought today, when they got through the first 10-15 minutes today, looking quite comfortable, having conceded really early on the road in three successive games they've done that on the road, conceding early goals, and they got through that today. They looked comfortable. Portsmouth at an arm's length. Portsmouth had lots of energy in front of their new manager, Danny Cowley, and his brother Nicky. They were running around, they were pressing, but they weren't pushing Ipswich. They weren't threatening Ipswich. So when they got through that period, and then when James Norwood scored a really good goal, a really well taken goal, the kind of goal we want to see him scoring more often, you've got to think from there that Ipswich have got themselves a platform. Like Paul Cook has said, the game's there for them, and then see the goal just before half time. Naylor gets a run on Chambers. It's a really good header from a really good cross that's given them that goal, and from there 1-1 at the break isn't a bad scoreline, not a bad position to be in on the road, is it? But from there you always feel like you have to worry about this Ipswich team, and that's not a good sign. It's
not a bad scoreline at half time, but I think it's the context of having played so well and got into the lead and got so close to half time. Dig in, find a way to get into the break at 1-0, changes the whole dynamic of the team talk when they get a goal, having barely laid a glove on Ipswich. I thought it was a case of good delivery, good header. Sometimes we're guilty of picking apart every single goal and trying to really nail it on somebody as find a scapegoat. People talking about Chambers getting out jumped. I thought it was a good delivery, just cleared Toto and Ciala at the near post. Naylor's got a run on Chambers, and it's a good header in off the post, but just in so many of these, how many times have we talked about Ipswich in these games when it's a bigger game, when there's something at stake, be it on TV, be it a game against a promotion rival, they just seem a bit flaky, and I think Paul Cook says a lot without saying it completely. I think he's treading on eggshells about what he's saying about these players at the moment, because he knows in the short term he's got to work with them still, and there is still a big opportunity for top six, because with this one out the way, the fixture list on the run in, okay, lots of games away from home, but a lot of teams now in the, let alone bottom half, the bottom third of the table, so it is there for Ipswich, and if they can play like they did in the first half hour today, there was a lot of energy, there was a higher press, they moved the ball with zip. It was like the first 20 minutes against Plymouth, wasn't it, last weekend, really? But they're just so Jekyll and Hyde, in between that. We've seen the Gillingham game, bullied, nothing. Fleetwood, lifeless. We've got good 20 minutes against Plymouth, a good 40 minutes here today. It's got to be more than that. It's got to be consistent from game to game. It's got to be more consistent within games. And this group of players, for some period of time, haven't been able to do that, have they?
That's the big word, isn't it? Consistency. That fixture list is kind. I think it's 7 games against the bottom 6 that started today in the bottom 6 of League One. I think it's Wimbledon twice out of those, and then they've got the rest of the bottom 6 to play. That's a kind run in, but we've seen Ipswich at times be flat track bullies in this division a little bit, beating those teams at the bottom and then struggling against teams like Portsmouth today and the bigger clubs. But they're going to have to be more consistent between now and the end of the season. But I still firmly believe they can. I do believe they can get into these playoffs. Competing in them once you're there is another question, but I firmly believe they can get in there. But there's going to have to be some learning going on quick. I'm not entirely convinced that a lot of these players have got a full handle on what Paul Cook is asking for them. There's some different instructions out there, particularly in midfield and from the fullbacks, and I that they're going to have to get up to speed on this at some point if they're going to be consistent enough in the run-in. But hopefully, a couple of full weeks on the training ground can help now. In Cook's defence, they've not had that in any way, shape or form since he's been here.
I'll end with a few positives. As you say, he's now got a full week on the training pitch leading up to Wigan away next week. Kane Vincent-Young back on the pitch second half, and he could change the dynamic of this team. Might take him a game or two to really get going, but I think just from the little snippet we saw today as a reminder that he can be that dynamic fullback that Paul Cook wants. Luke Chambers kind of moved inside to centre half and replaced James Wilson. That might be something we see more of going forwards. Armando Dobra got a little go today. He seems to be sort of rotating his flair players, as he called them. Didn't massively get into the game, but I think he provides a little bit of competitive edge that perhaps some of those forward players lack.